Just a day or so left in 2024. The Belleville Sens getting set to ring in the new year at home against the Utica Comets on Tuesday, December the 31st, before they hit the road to open the new year. And they'll try to lick their wounds from a couple of tough matchups against the divisional rival Toronto Marlies last week. We'll recap all that for you and get you set for the turn of the calendar on this episode of the Belleville Sens podcast, Season 3, Episode number 12, if you are keeping track at home. Foot and Brock Ormond here with you as Sens are on the ice for their open practice. Recording day is December the 30th. It's about 10:30 in the morning. And again, we got a lot to talk about on this week's show, despite some not so great results over the last 7 days. We'll hear this week from Jan Jenik and Oskar Pettersson, a couple of the import senators who have represented their countries at the World Junior Hockey Championships, which are underway. We'll also hear from defenseman Djibril Toure, who made his American Hockey League debut this week and actually had a couple of assists in his AHL debut. So that's all coming up on this week's show. And again, Brock, despite a couple of losses last week, the Senators still remain in the hunt in the North Division. I mean, we've got 46 or so games left to play, but 3 points out of a playoff spot as of right now after a couple of tough games against the Toronto Marlies this week.
Overall, though, between the Sens and the Marlies, it was a tough game to get scoring going on the Boxing Day. It was a shutout, and but again, the effort was right there, and you can't say that the Sens don't put forth an honest effort every single game. And it's difficult to fathom when you lose twice in a row to a team that you're chasing right now, the Toronto Marlies. But you got to give the Marlies full credit, too. They played textbook defensive hockey in game number 1, and then game 2, it was a couple of key timely offensive plays that led to wins and led to the win. And again, it was tough for the Sens, who had a really good couple of stretches and spurts against the Marlies on Saturday night. But in the end, the offense just kind of ran dry when they needed the most, and there was some, again, tough penalties at tough times that led to goals, and you maybe question some of the calls when they're made. But in the end, the Sens just pressed hard and they pushed hard against Dennis Hill, to be a guy that's been really good against them this year. But in the end, just couldn't quite pry that tying goal from the hands of the Marlies. And it was a great crowd on both games, actually. 13,000 on Boxing Day, and then about 4,300 or so on the Saturday night here in Belleville, and that's the kind of thing that really gets guys up for the game. You could tell that both teams were engaged both games, especially the Sens on the Saturday night. It certainly was not a dead effort, that's for sure, and you got to give a lot of kudos to those guys.
Yeah, absolutely, and that crowd here at CAA Arena on the Saturday night against Toronto was one of the biggest we've had. I think second largest in franchise history, which is outstanding. And if you look at that, and you look at the sellout from Bulls Night a couple weeks ago and a sellout for the World Junior pre-tournament game between Sweden and Germany, it's starting to feel a lot more like hockey season right around the city. It seems like people are feeling that as well. And it's awesome to see so many people here in the building so regularly to take in the Sens or whatever else is happening here at CAA Arena.
Yeah, absolutely, and it just goes to show what this building can bring, because it's not just a place for the Sens to play. It's not just a place for other hockey teams to play. It's a whole large community center, and it's been made that much better by the renovations here over the last almost 8 years now. So it's incredible to see this kind of support, and it shows that the Sens are alive and well in this area for sure.
Before those games against Toronto last week, Brock, we didn't have a show in between our last one before Christmas and now, and the Sens did play one game before Christmas after that show. That was against Springfield, and they snapped their 3-game losing streak on home ice. They pick up a victory against the Thunderbirds, a team that has frankly struggled quite a bit over the course of the season early on. But that was a nice way to kind of head towards Christmas, and really did kind of, I think, turn the tides a little bit, at least in terms of the attitude and the energy, because going into Christmas and having to deal with Boxing Day on a 4-game skid would have been a lot different than it ended up being.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's balanced offensive play that got the Sens the win on the Saturday the 21st against Springfield. 5 goals from 5 different players, and it's Oskar Pettersson that did a lot of the grunt work to get himself one of those markers. Bongiovanni cashed in, Bourgault cashed in, Jenik cashed in, and so did Stephen Halliday into an empty net. That's the kind of balanced offensive attack the Sens need if they want to be successful, because of the fact we mentioned it on the weekend. The Sens aren't one of the highest scoring teams in the AHL, so a lot of their offense has to come from by committee. And even when a guy like Angus Crookshank, who's probably your most dangerous offensive player, at least most dangerous goal scorer that threatens every time he's out there, even he's not at his best and not at his the top of his offensive game. So you got to have other guys step in, and having Zach McEwen back as well certainly helps that as well. And 5 goals from 5 different sources, anytime you can get it, is certainly impressive. And unfortunately, it just didn't come in waves like we were hoping it would going into Toronto.
Yeah, and not just consistent and spread out in terms of the goal scoring, just the points in general. I think 11 Senators or something like that had points on the 21st, and I don't know if anybody had more than 1 point. It was just a complete, as you say, team effort. And the Sens were able, I think, to carry some of that over into last week against the Marlies. Boxing Day shutout. Just couldn't get the offense going, but had a near season high in shots on goal. And then the home game the next night, similar. They're in the game. They go down twice. They come back to tie it twice. And just a bad bounce, a goal that is swung out off the pad of Malcolm Subban and in from behind the goal line ends up making the difference. So, again, we see a Senators team that is always right in the thick of it and giving themselves a chance to win every night because of the way that they have played consistently through the season. And we should mention, the shutout on Boxing Day is the first time this year and the first time since last February, I think, or March, that the Sens have been shut out. So they are playing really good hockey, and just as we've said kind of ad nauseum this year, the North Division is just extremely difficult to play in.
Yeah, and if you can string together some of that offense and some of the wins, it turns things around pretty well, and the picture gets a lot clearer when you can string together a bunch of wins and at least try and keep yourself afloat, because, like you said, it's so tough in the North Division with teams like Toronto and Rochester and Syracuse and several others. It's just like a sardine can, the way that these teams are built right now and fit into the North Division. So it's so tough, but in the end, the Sens are sticking with it, and there's still lots of time left to go in the season, so there's no time to panic just yet. When the calendar flips to 2025 is when things get a little bit more muddy. So if the Sens can do what they did last year and go on that nice run in February, March, April to squeeze in, then I wouldn't bet against them. That's for sure in a postseason picture. Yeah,
46 games left, so lots of hockey to be played. When we come back on this episode of the Belleville Sens podcast, we'll continue to chat a bit about how the last couple of weeks have gone. We'll also hear from a couple of the international Senators. Oskar Pettersson and Jan Jenik will be our guests this week on episode number 12 of Season 3 of the Belleville Sens podcast. We are back with that in just a moment on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network.
New year, let them hear you cheer. January's action-packed with Belleville Senators hockey.
To the goal line, handed off neatly for Pilon. Up to Reinhardt with a shot. Scores!
Friday, January 10th, 7 p.m. Your Sens play Wilkes-Barre, AHL affiliate of the Pittsburgh Penguins, for Bell's Let's Talk Night, promoting the importance of making mental health a priority. More at BellevilleSens.com. Watch them thrive in 25.
Go, Sens, go!
Season 3, Episode 12 of the Belleville Sens podcast continues. In this segment, we will hear from a couple of Senators forwards. Oskar Pettersson in his first full year in North America after joining the Sens in February of last year. And we'll also hear from Jan Jenik in his first year as a Senator. He was acquired in the Igor Sokolov move to Arizona, and we'll hear from both of those guys coming up in just a little bit. A lot of transactions over the last week or so, Brock. The Senators have been dealing with it now probably more than they have all season, at least in terms of the number of players who are up all at once. Right now, 5 Belleville Senators up in Ottawa right now, including both goaltenders, Matt Sogard and Levi Merilainen, both who played over the last couple of days with Ottawa as well. Add into the mix Zach Ostapchuk, who's been up for a while, Cole Reinhardt, who's been back and forth, but mostly up over the last month and a half or so, and then Nicholas Montempalo, who was recently recalled to the NHL. And Michael Simpson and Djibril Toure are back here from Orlando. We'll hear from Djibril in a little bit, but, we go about the business and talk about the transactions as if it's no big deal, but the fact of the matter is, with 5 regulars out of the lineup, never mind how important those 5 players happen to be. In this case, it leads to a lot of jostling, a lot of readjustment, and frankly, it does make an impact, I think, on the players and on the team.
Yeah, absolutely, especially when they're key players, too. Like Montempalo and Gannett are 2 of the best defensemen in this lineup on any given night, as we've talked about before. And, losing a couple of those other guys, too, is so difficult to kind of swallow. But when you get a guy like Djibril Toure and that can pick up a couple of assists in his AHL debut against the Toronto Marlies, a team that's never easy to play against, a big rivalry game, in a front of a packed house of 4,300 plus here at CAA Arena. Talk about a guy with ice in his veins. He had an exceptional game, and that certainly eases the load a bit when you're thinking of guys gone. But like you said, it's never an ideal situation. But that's the whole deck of cards you're dealt with in the AHL. That's all it is. And Dave Bell and his staff know it, and they just have to try and adjust and plan for any contingencies. And that's exactly what they've done. And so far, it's not been too bad for the Sens, but they'll just try and get back on a more consistent winning roll here. But all these guys, and Mike Simpson hasn't played in a game yet, but when he does, I'm sure, or hasn't gotten a start yet, I should say, he should be a big-time piece out of this team moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And the guys who are up from Orlando, they fill these holes, and a lot of times, for a guy like Michael Simpson, who's a young goaltender, his time being up here is more of a supporting role, right? It's be the guy in practice, take more of the reps, take a little bit of the load off the number one guy, because at this stage in his career, he's a backup goaltender, right? In pro hockey, his first year pro, but at the same time, that's a pretty heavy workload for Malcolm Subban right now if Simmer doesn't get into games. So we'll hope that naturally both goaltenders in Ottawa get healthy again soon, and Sogi and Levy can come back. But it's going to be the Subi show, we think, at least this week, and will be interesting to see how he does. But you look at a guy like Djibril Toure, who comes up from the ECHL. He gets a couple of points in his first AHL game against the Toronto Marlies over the weekend. And Dave Bell has called this the land of opportunity. We've said that before on this show as well. When somebody gets called up, it leads to a chance for somebody else in the organization to prove themselves and take the next step. And that is one of the best parts, I think, about the American Hockey League. Tough to see a guy go up, but it's always neat to see the next wave come through and try to make their mark.
Yeah, for sure, and it's great to see Levi Merilainen having success, too, in the NHL right now with Ottawa, so that really makes this organization proud for sure. Matt Sogard as well has had some success up there, but the getting guys in that can be that supporting role and, be lend a helping hand or be a good voice in the room is awesome to have. And Djibril Toure especially, and hearing from him and how excited he was to make an impact in his first AHL game is incredible stuff. And he's worked so hard for this. Started in the CCHL, had a couple of great years with Carleton Place, a very well-known junior powerhouse in the CCHL. Hawkesbury as well, the Hawks, and then going to the OHL to Sudbury Wolves and Windsor Spitfires. He's one of those guys that's had the long route, I guess, and a type of guy that really has a lot of size. He's just got to build into it now. But the success of these guys here certainly eases the load a little bit and the pain of losing guys like Levy and Mads, and then of course the 2 defensemen as well.
How did you feel about Djibril's game the other night? Again, he gets 2 assists, and that's always a nice way to open your AHL account in your first game. But he didn't play a ton, but I thought he looked all right, at least prepared, I would say, to make that debut. The nerves were shaken off relatively early for him.
Yeah, exactly. And Coach Dave Bell said, getting him an opportunity at this point in time is so crucial because, you can't develop if you don't get the time to actually showcase your stuff. And certainly the fans came away pretty impressed with him on Saturday night against the Toronto Marlies. He looked very comfortable for a guy that hadn't played an AHL game. He's played exclusively in Orlando so far, and it seems like going to the ECHL has really benefited him a lot because it's given him an opportunity to play at a slightly maybe slower pace or a little more, get a little more physicality involved in his game as well, which is outstanding to see. And Orlando is a pretty good landing spot for the ECHL talent that comes through, and guys coming from junior and guys coming from NCAA. So it's nice to see Toure get his opportunity, and he's one of those guys that even in the preseason game I saw back in October, he played against Laval, and he looked very good in that as well. But of course, it was a numbers crunch that he was dealing with back then. But now he gets the opportunity because of injuries and call-ups, and look at what he's done. He's been outstanding so far.
You know what? Let's call an audible. Let's just hear from Djibril Toure. Tyler King caught up with him after his AHL debut. So the 6'7" blue liner is our first guest on this week's episode of the Belleville Sens podcast.
Was it for you to be able to contribute as much as you did in a first AHL game where I'm sure the nerves were going a bit too?
Yeah, nerves were definitely going, but I practiced hard for this moment, so it all came to play at the end, so I was happy.
Take me a bit through that first goal if you can, what you kind of see on that shot, and obviously a heck of a tip from Hayden Hodgson to get it in too.
Yeah, I forgot who it was down low, but I called for the puck. He gave me a nice bounce pass, and I knew I was going to one-time it, and saw Hodge in front of the net there. He got a tip, so I was excited for him.
So whether it's been in your time with Orlando this year, obviously this first game up here with Belleville, what's the adjustment to the pro level been like, and what are the big differences you've kind of seen from your last few years in junior hockey too?
Yeah, I mean, this is a men's league. These guys are grown men, so different from juniors, but I think I'm adapting well. The speed is way faster too, so just need to move that puck quicker.
And even coming from the ECHL up here for this game, do you notice those same kind of differences too?
Yeah. Here is definitely more structured, but same kind of game, super fast and physical.
As you kind of look ahead, obviously trying to stay up here and keep playing as much as you can, what are the biggest things in the back of your mind to keep working on, getting better at, and maybe just in a team sense as well, things that these guys all want to be doing better as you move forward too?
I just want to play my game, help out the team in my way, which is being physical, being that stopper in the back end, and then doing my role. So I'll help out the team that way.
And we saw, you played a physical game. We saw you in preseason drop the gloves at least once too. Tell me a bit about how you kind of walk that line as a bigger player who's expected to be a physical guy, but you've also got the movement and skill to kind of go along with it too. How do you kind of balance those?
Yeah, I want to add most things to my game. So if that's moving the puck or making that skill play or just being that defensive and physical, I just want to do it all and help out the team any way I can.
Last thing for you, what's it been like integrating with this group here? How's the sort of welcoming committee been? And especially knowing you've been thrown right to the wolves with having to play some important minutes, what's that kind of transition been like?
Oh, the boys have been super nice here and very inviting. They make a lot of jokes about me, but hey, it's all locker room talk.
So there's Djibril Toure with Tyler King. Doesn't seem all that nervous to be making the jump up to the American Hockey League. And, once he develops a little bit more, I think rounds himself out, adds maybe a little bit onto that 6'7" frame, he could end up being quite a force in this league.
Absolutely. And, Dorval, Quebec native, he plays hard and not on the edge, but he plays just hard enough to let you know he's there. And he's been a great young guy so far. And it seems like, like you said, he's not nervous at all. He plays, relatively simple game, which helps keep the nerves kind of out of the equation. And, when he's out there, he's usually making the hard plays, but also the simple plays too, just putting the puck on the net and shooting from the point like that leads to tips, it leads to screens in front, and leads to a lot of havoc, and he ends up getting benefited from that. His first AHL point and his first period, no less, one of his first shifts as well. So that's quite the accomplishment for a guy that's this young, and he only can grow from here because he's been great so far.
And learning a lot from guys like Max Gannett and Jeremy Davies and defense coach Andrew Campbell, as well as Djibril Toure continues his development. When we come back, we will hear from Oskar Pettersson and Jan Jenik as they chat a bit about their seasons and share some World Junior Championship memories with us as well. This is episode 12 of season 3 of the Belleville Sens podcast, and we'll be back in just a moment. The Belleville Senators are absolutely soaring.
Be there for the next great Belleville Sens moment. Single game tickets for the second half of the Belleville Senators season are on sale. Get into the action and witness Belleville Sens history in the making, including home games against arch rivals the Toronto Marlies and the Belleville Senators Next Gen game. For info on tickets, group experiences, and more, visit BellevilleSens.com and be part of the team.
Into our main interview block on this episode of the Belleville Sens podcast, season number 3, episode 12. David Foot and Brock Ormond here. Again, recording day is December the 30th, Monday morning. We play here at home on New Year's Eve, 3 p.m. So if you do listen to this program this afternoon ahead of the New Year's Eve game, tickets at Ticketmaster.ca or BellevilleSens.com as we get set to say goodbye to 2024, and we'll preview that contest against the Utica Comets and the rest of the games this week against Syracuse and in Utica again coming up in just a little bit. Let's start first with Oskar Pettersson, though. Brock, first of all, because he's on the ice right now. We can see him going through his paces. Secondly, because we spoke to him before we spoke to Jan Jenik on Boxing Day. This is a guy who, when he came over in February, there was obviously a lot of hype around him. Things hadn't really been going the way that he had liked or hoped in Sweden at home, so decided to come over to North America early, joins the team in late February, and comes back and is here for the full season. He's just been an excellent, I think, bottom 6 guy to start, and does show those flashes of his potential and where he could end up slotting into the lineup, whether that be here in the American League or in the National Hockey League as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a guy that is still young, and again, much like a Djibril Toure, still has room to grow. He's only 20 years old, and figuratively and literally, he is a big specimen, 6'2", almost 210 pounds. But one of those guys that can develop his offense while playing that strong role in the bottom half of the offensive lineup, the forward lineup, and he's shown some good flashes of play, but he doesn't have to be the type of guy that carries the offensive load. He can just chip in here and there. Only 6 points in 26 games, but he's been an effective player when he's playing that two-way role, and it seems like that's where David Bell has penciled him in for most of this season. But he works hard. Like, he works like a dog out in practice, and you can see it. We can see it right now looking at it. And, he's one of those guys that has to, keep his paces high because of the fact that he is still relatively new to North America. This is only his first full season, like we said. So, the type of guy that you just love having around because he is a positive force. And I know we've talked to him plenty of times already, and he just is a guy that, you like to be around because he, exudes that positive energy, and that's exactly what you need during a season that can have some peaks and valleys for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had his family in town. His brother, his parents were here over the holidays, got to spend some time with them. He had some pals from Team Sweden here with the World Junior team holding their pre-tournament camp at the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center. And in terms of his development, he's actually transitioning from wing to center this year, something that, as you'll hear, he's never dealt with before in his career. So let's hear from Halmstad, Sweden's Oskar Pettersson as he catches up with us to talk about his first full season professionally in North America on the Belleville Sens podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And Merry Christmas as well.
Merry Christmas to you too.
I want to get into kind of the last couple of weeks. I know your folks have been here and lots has been going on around the rink, and the World Juniors are kicking off. But first, how have you kind of felt about your season so far? First full pro year here in North America, and maybe how has it been different from jumping over here mid-season last year?
As I mentioned earlier on when we spoke at the rookie tournament, it's been great to just be a part of everything from the start this year. I feel like I've been playing some solid hockey throughout the whole season, actually. Been pretty happy with my game in general. Obviously, it's been a little bit of a new challenge for me to play center, which I've done a lot throughout the whole season so far. I actually never played center before, so that's been a challenge, but I think I've been taking on that challenge in a good way. I feel like I've been playing well, and now I just look to add a little bit more offense to the table. I feel like I've had a lot of chances where I really haven't executed as I wanted to, so that's kind of the new step that I'm trying to get here in the upcoming games.
What are some of the things you have to learn or teach yourself or be taught when it comes to picking up a new position like center if you haven't played so much before?
No, it's been challenging, as I said before, but I think both Beller and Leach, the forward coach, has done a great job. We've been watching a lot of video. For me, it's been more to slow the game down rather than picking up even more speed, because as a center you got to make sure you support both the Ds and your wingers a lot, so it's more slowing the game down instead of, as a winger, you kind of just going up and down the sheet, trying to forecheck and move the legs as much, but now it's more slowing the game down and support your teammates.
Chatting with Sens forward Oskar Pettersson. You had your family here. They're still here over Christmas. They'll be here today and back in Belleville in a couple days. What's it mean to you to have your family here? You spend so much time away from them, and especially at this time of year.
No, I mean, it means the world to me. I mean, obviously, that's the persons that are the closest to me and the persons that I loved. I mean, just to be able to play in front of them and also spend some quality time with them now, since we had 4 days off, was great. As you said, it's not too often that I see them, even not even in the summer, since we live in different places back home in Sweden as well. So just great to spend some quality time with my family. I really enjoyed to show them around so they can be able to relate a little bit more when we're chatting on FaceTime, so they kind of know what I'm doing over here. So it's been great, and I'm looking forward to play in front of them again today.
Yeah, what's been kind of their reaction, I guess, to the city of Belleville? Were you around Toronto at all with them the last couple of days?
We didn't go to Toronto since they're in Toronto now, and they get to see Toronto now the upcoming days here. But we did go to Kingston. We did go out on Prince Edward County twice for dinners there. So they've been impressed, especially with the county. I know that they went to some wineries and stuff like that too. So they've been really enjoying it here in Canada for the first time.
Take a few more minutes here with Sens forward Oskar Pettersson. We had the World Junior pre-tournament game between Sweden and Germany at CAA Arena a few days ago, and you were part of that Swedish World Junior team a couple of years back. What was it like to see them here in town? And I know you've got some buddies on that team as well.
It was special, I'm not going to lie. It felt a little bit weird seeing them walking around and practicing every day in CAA. I mean, I'm not used to see familiar faces from back home that much as I've been doing the last couple of weeks here. So it was great. As you said, a lot of close friends on that team. So I made sure that I took care of them a little bit extra so they felt comfortable before the tournament starts. And now I'm just excited to follow their journey and hopefully they'll get to take the gold medal this year, which we couldn't get done last year.
Well, if that game against Germany is any indication, they're going to be one of the favorites, I would have to think.
Oh yeah, I mean, as we should, as a proud Swede, I think we should always be up there and compete for the gold medal. So yeah, it looks good.
What's your I guess favorite memory from the World Juniors? Is it making that team for the first time? Was there a moment in the tournament? What stands out to you when you think back?
There's a lot of good memories, both from since I played twice in Halifax and at home. Obviously, last year playing at home in Sweden was super special in that way. But I feel like the first time for myself in Halifax, there's a lot of special memories since it was the first time doing it. First time kind of playing on a bigger stage and getting all the media attention and all the hype around the World Juniors. I remember actually that in the quarterfinals we were down with, I think it was like 5 minutes left or so. We were down against Finland, and then we managed to score the game-winning goal our PK late in the game. So I think that's a memory that stands out because we had a pretty nice comeback victory against Finland, who's been our biggest rivalry since we grew up. So that's a moment that stands out for me.
There's a bunch of guys on this team that have represented their countries at that tournament. Any bragging rights, you think, on the line in the room over the next couple of weeks with World Juniors going on?
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna throw in some bets on the games and stuff like that. So that'll be an interesting conversation and discussion in the locker room the upcoming weeks here.
All right. Lastly, we're here at Scotiabank Arena, one of the most historic spots in hockey. You got to play here on November 16th as well. Boxing Day is a little bit of a different animal. What's it like for you, I guess, to be in the big building like this and to play a rivalry game in an atmosphere like this?
No, I mean, it's huge and it's something new for me as well. So I don't know really what to expect. I kind of just want to soak it all in and hopefully we get a great environment here and get a victory against Toronto.
Keys against Toronto, they've been really tight games, all three this year.
I mean, obviously it's a special game now. We haven't been practicing for the last couple of days, so I would say the key today is probably just to keep it simple, not trying to play it too complicated, and obviously it's gonna be a little bit tougher to get the legs going and all that. So I would say just play very simple and kind of take it from there.
Thanks, Petey. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Sens forward Oskar Pettersson. We're back to Scotiabank Arena in Toronto for the Boxing Day Classic in just a moment. All right, there's Oskar Pettersson, who, again, is out there on the ice with the rest of the guys. A small area game between the blue lines right now, and you think these guys are only competitive when they're playing against other teams. You should take the opportunity to come out to an open practice like today or stop by during the week because the competition is always riding high with this group, whether they're competing against each other or not.
Yeah, a lot of love, too, from some of the guys hugging it out after that little battle drill there, that small area game. And, yeah, you got to be quick on those because, that's the way it's played. That's the way the game is played is a lot of tight corners, a lot of very stiff spaces that you try to break through, and it can be hard. So practicing on that against each other honestly helps you, maybe win more of those battles during the game.
Talk about Oskar Pettersson's attitude, always positive, always happy, and we've learned that about our next guest as well in his short time here. Jan Jenik joining the team from Tucson and Arizona, where he was drafted and has played for the last few seasons, about 20 games in the NHL and a handful more than that in the AHL, but a guy who's just brought a ton of energy to this group, a little bit of scoring touch as well as we've seen recently, and it sucks to lose a guy like Igor Sokolov because of what a fan favorite he was. I think if Sens fans pay attention to number 24 for Belleville, he's quickly going to fill that void for them.
Yeah, Jenik can score, and he proved it in junior with the Bulldogs organization and the Ontario Hockey League, and he was a Steve Staios guy, having known him through being a GM, and Michael Amlauer, the franchise owner, of course, is the owner of the now Brantford Bulldogs as well, so Jenik already has that familiarity, which probably made it a little easier for him to just slide right into the role of being that offensive guy, but he was pegged to be coming in. So, it does hurt to lose Igor Sokolov, but he's doing a heck of a job out in Arizona right now, playing well in the AHL and the Roadrunners. But Jenik comes in, and he's a big part of this system, and he dealt with injuries, this season already, much like Igor at times had to deal with, but everybody does, and for Jan Jenik, he's going to be the type of guy that can come through with a potential clutch goal or a clutch play here and there when called upon. So he's going to be a huge piece of the Sens team going forward, and offensively, he and Angus Crookshank may have to be the ones to carry the load, to try and help boost those other guys up as well.
Well, let's see what Jan Jenik thinks about his adjustment to Belleville, moving from the west to the east. He's from a small town in Czechia called Nymburk, and it's about an hour or so away from Prague, and he'll tell us a bit about his hometown as well. Jan Jenik, our next guest on Season 3, Episode 12 of the Belleville Sens podcast.
Glad to be here.
How has the season been for you? How would you kind of characterize the year so far?
I was obviously a new player this year here, and I feel like the team accepted me pretty well. And I played a couple of games, then was out with injury. So that was kind of hard, but my teammates made it as good as it could be. So now I'm just glad to be back and help out the team again.
Yeah, maybe tell us a little bit about that process of coming to Belleville, getting traded, and making a move from Arizona to Ontario. It's a pretty different, it's very different in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's hockey. That's how it works. And just pack up our lives and move to Ontario, and we love it so far. So it's been good to us.
Are you good with the cold and the snow and that sort of thing? Obviously, from being back home as well, or do you prefer what it was like down there in Arizona?
I mean, Arizona is pretty nice. It's hard to beat winter, but I like White Christmas, so that was pretty fun. It was cool to experience it again, so pretty exciting.
Yeah. You're from Czechia. What's your hometown like? Tell us a little bit about where you're from and what's it like back home?
Yeah, I'm from a very small city, like 3,000 population, so not much, honestly. Go to a different city to play hockey, and that kind of was it.
Yeah, and you were over here in Ontario to play your junior hockey as well for a little bit with Hamilton. What was that experience like coming over as a teenager and kind of cutting your teeth here in the OHL?
Yeah, it was super fun. I'm really glad I had the opportunity to do it, and I would redo it all over again. It was really fun.
Have they filled you in on the connection between the Hamilton Bulldogs and Belleville?
Yeah, I heard. I know about it.
Well aware, yeah. We're chatting with Sens forward Jan Jenik. You're one of a few players who've had the opportunity to play for your country at multiple levels, not just the World Juniors, but 2 World Junior Championships as well. First off, what does it mean to you to represent your country and to get that opportunity to play for Czechia internationally?
Obviously, it's a huge honor and one of the most fun times you can ever have. I was lucky enough to head World Juniors in Czech my second year, so yeah, one of my best memories from hockey.
How big is that tournament over there? We know here it's massive and everybody gets involved, but do people follow it kind of as closely back home as they do here?
Yeah, it's really big. Honestly, everybody turns off the Christmas movies and tune in onto hockey, so it's huge, and I'm excited for it as well.
Yeah, how do you like Czechia's chances this year?
Looks pretty good, pretty confident. So hopefully they're playing Kazakhstan today. Hopefully they can take it home and keep going as they have been.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple more minutes here with Jan Jenik. You talked about how this team has really accepted you and brought you into the fold. You're the type of guy that seems to bring the energy all the time and that kind of positive attitude. How much do you, relish that role to kind of be that guy?
I love when there's energy around the locker room, on the ice. I love positivity, and I'm just glad to do my part and make everybody happy around me.
Absolutely, and you do that for sure. Lastly, get the Toronto Marlies again here tonight. What needs to be better from a few days ago to improve the result?
We did some video, clean up a couple of things, so I think we just need to stick with our game, the way we played there, and it will turn to us on the good side, so yeah.
Awesome. And the results are coming for you. Jan Jenik, thanks again for the time. Welcome to Belleville officially.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We're back on Belleville Sens Game Day. Sens and Marlies in just a moment. Yeah, I'm quickly becoming a big fan of Jan Jenik. Just he's always happy. Like, the guy's always pumped up. He's always having a good time. He's always trying to keep the energy level up, but not just for himself, but the entire group. And guys like that are so important, as you kind of mentioned earlier on, Brock, with the ups and downs of a season, and especially right now where Belleville is not necessarily getting the results that they would like to see. You need guys like that to keep the mood up, keep the mood light, and chip in offensively when you need them.
Absolutely, and he's a guy that never seems like he's down because he knows that it's a privilege to play here in the AHL, and any chance you can be one step below the world's highest level of hockey is something to be really happy about. And for Jan Jenik, there's going to be chances coming for him. I can be certain of that, because he, even in the short little sample size that he's had in Belleville, he's shown himself exactly what he can do. And again, he's an offensive guy, pure offensive guy, but this is probably the best spot for him to learn all areas of his game and improve his back check, improve defensively overall, just be in better positioning in each zone, and know what it takes to be just an all-around hockey player. And it seems like the coaching staff here in Belleville has bred him to be that type of player. So it's a good sign, and hopefully he can try and get back up to speed again offensively after his injuries this season.
It'll be fun to watch the rest of the way. Thanks again to Jan Jenik and Oskar Pettersson for their time. When we come back in our final segment this week, we will get you set for 3 pretty critical games this week. The Utica Comets at home tomorrow, New Year's Eve, a visit to Syracuse on Friday, and then the first trip to Utica to check out their new digital rink boards coming up on Saturday. We'll tee those games up in just a moment on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network and the Belleville Sens podcast.
New year, let them hear you cheer. January's action-packed with Belleville Senators hockey.
What a move! And the rebound was there, and the rebound is still there, and they score!
Sunday, January 12th, 3 p.m. Your Sens play Wilkes-Barre, AHL affiliate of the Pittsburgh Penguins, for Family Fun Day. Pre-game fun and activities in the Kids Zone. After the game, full team autograph signing. More at BellevilleSens.com. Watch them thrive in 25.
Go, Sens, go!
Final segment of this week's Belleville Sens podcast. David Foot and Brock Ormond here, perched in the McFarland's Pub. Decided we'd move out of the Jack Miller Broadcast Booth and Media Center, at least for a week. Get a different perspective on things with our open practice happening. And before we go this week, we'll tee up 3 upcoming games. A pair against the Utica Comets, a team the Sens have only seen once this season. And a matchup against the Syracuse Crunch, a team that Belleville has seen a bunch this season, making for an interesting week as we officially wave goodbye to 2024 and say hello to 2025. Let's start, Brock, with the matchup against the Utica Comets, New Year's Eve. So that is tomorrow if you're listening to this show on release day. That's Monday, the 30th of December. But 3 p.m. on New Year's Eve, we've got our New Year's Eve Kids Countdown game against the Utica Comets. Belleville with a 5-4 win against Utica in their last visit here all the way back on October 19th. It's been a long time since then, Brock, and a fair amount has changed for both teams, other than the fact that Utica's still at the bottom of the North Division, meaning that this is a pretty important week for Belleville and a chance to pick up some points against an opponent that's struggled all season long.
Yeah, this isn't a gimme game for sure for the Belleville Sens. They can't just expect to walk into CAA Arena and half coast their way to a victory, play at 40 or 50% and go home with 2 points. It's not the way it works in the American Hockey League. Everybody can beat anybody at any given moment, and certainly the Utica Comets have improved quite a bit since the last time Belleville saw them more than 2 months ago. And, the coaching change certainly plays a factor in that. Ryan Parent came in for Kevin Dineen, and all of a sudden, it took them maybe 1 or 2 games, but then after that, it was a roll for the Utica Comets. They went on a 5 or 6 game winning streak and ended up, improving their standings a bit, but still sitting in the bottom of the AHL standings entirely, not just the North Division, but the bottom of the entire league. And again, they, much like Belleville, they at times struggle to score goals, but for them, they're in the 50s in goals. They're in 55, I believe, the last time I saw. So they don't score a whole ton. It's going to be a key for the Belleville Sens to jump on them early, much like they did in the home opener back on October 19th. Went up 4-0 on them, but just for the Sens, obviously, learning to lock things down a little better and not allow a Utica comeback or near comeback. So jumping on them early and putting them out of the game is so crucial because of the fact that, again, the Comets, when they get down by 3 or 4 goals, it ends up being the difference, really, because or even by a couple goals, because they just don't have that offensive firepower, though they do have a lot of talent in their system. So it's been tough for Utica, but I'm sure that the Sens will be ready for the challenge.
Yeah, they're going to have to be ready. Like you say, when you come up against a team that's at the bottom of the standings, it doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy game. It means that they are going to probably be a lot more tough to play against than maybe a team that's at the top of the standings and has been coasting a little bit through the first few weeks or months of the season. The Utica Comets, they've only won, I think, one of their last 5 or 6 games, but that stretch comes after they won 5 in a row, following 13 straight losses to start the season. So it is a team that can string wins together. They just haven't been able to. And then you talk about the start. that's been a big question mark for Belleville. Basically, the whole month of December, they haven't scored first in the last 10 games. That's all month long. So coming out with a big start, I think, is going to be something that they'll need to do, not just on New Year's Eve, but every night moving forward, try to give themselves a little bit more of a boost, I guess, off the top instead of having to fight back every game.
Yeah, comebacks are pretty entertaining when you can complete them, but some of the time, and a lot of the time, really, it doesn't always happen. Once you get down by a couple goals, it can be tough to rebound, and the Sens certainly have made their fans very proud of the way they can show that resilience and claw back in a game when they're down by a bunch. But again, you'd rather not have that happen because, as you saw on the weekend against the Toronto Marlies, it can be hard when you're facing a really good team that is so strong defensively as the Marlies are. And so going into this, there's not a whole lot of players the Sens need to really